Welcome back to the Brooklyn Comics Arts Festival. Here with lovely Lara, who created these series of books with Dave Kelly. Can you tell me more about the Night Watchman?
Sure. I'm the illustrator and Dave Kelly's the writer. We work very closely on the story, so it's definitely our baby. But it's essentially about a girl who works at a coffee shop, but she's struggling to be a journalist. And her roommate is possessed by a detective from the 1940s who's come back to fight mysterious evil for an unknown reason. And so a lot of the story is about our perspective, living in Brooklyn, being young and broke. There's sort of an undercurrent through this particular story arc about gentrification and sort of these issues that are facing Williamsburg and all of Brooklyn. But then there's also the supernatural sort of superhero element to it. We've got issue 1 and 2 right now, and our friend Molly Ostertag, who we just interviewed, did a one-off story for us. So it's sort of our third issue. But yeah, they follow around these 3 characters who work at the coffee shop, but also have to fight crime by night, if you will.
I noticed that there's a little bit of a noir theme coming on from this.
Yeah, we wanted to combine superhero and film noir and a teeny bit of like autobio into all of this. So our main superhero, the Night Watchman, was in the 40s a detective who died of sort of mysterious reasons, and now he's come back and possessed the body of a young hipster in Williamsburg, and he dresses like he's in the 40s, and of course no one notices because he just looks hip. And you know, there's sort of another world, a dead world that's called the Suspirium, that actually in our latest issue you get a teeny look into it, and a lot of that is modeled off the 1940s and film noir. So we've got some of those tropes in there, but we've updated it for a modern audience.
Let me ask, how far did this comic book go? Because you mentioned this was a one-off special, and this is the first 2 issues. So is the story ongoing, or
yeah,
waiting for the next one?
We've sort of made a couple different story arcs, and the first one is going to be 4 issues. So we're 2 issues in, we've got 2 more to go. We've been sort of building this world because we like the characters and we think they can speak to a lot of different things. So we actually have mini comics that follow one character named Serena, who's sort of like an androgynous street urchin who gets into lots of random situations, which is why we did the minis on it. And we also have this book about brewing coffee, which is actually just totally an informative book about the finer points of fine boutique coffee and what you can do at home and what you can order out in the world. But it's hosted by our main character, Nora, who is the girl who works at the coffee shop, but also wants to be a journalist. So we're sort of building the world. But as far as the actual core story, we've got 4 issues of this, and then we're going to have one other one-off. That's another self-contained story, involves all the same characters, but something that you can read from start to finish and have the whole story.
How expansive do you want this little universe of yours to be? Because so far, Night Watchman seems to be like the little tip on the iceberg of this entire Williamsburg world, yeah, that you have building. You
know, we have made at least 3 main story arcs with 4 issues in it. Like, we've written out that far. As far as we'll go, we're going to keep going. At least we're for sure going to finish the first story arc. You know, I'd like to get to the second one, and the third one promises to be really crazy. So, like, we have an end point, per se, but we're not, you know, we're going to keep going at it unless something else comes up.
Will any of these books, like, any of these stories ever cross over into another story arc, going, interconnecting with each other and interacting with the character developments? Like, something that happens in this story could be affected into something with this story, so some form of continuity.
Yeah, you know, somewhat. Like, this story sort of exists in a world that could theoretically go after this, but it doesn't have to.
So it's a what if.
Yeah, so exactly. And we have another one-off. This one's about sort of a vampire-esque characters at the Bronx Zoo. We have another one-off that's going to be coming sometime the beginning of next year that is about a golem-esque figure emerging from the Gowanus Canal. So those are sort of fun, you know, stories that, again, sort of fit in continuity, but they don't have to. While this one continues with the larger theme about sort of an unsavory politician and development of the Williamsburg waterfront.
Well, you mentioned this story you're plugging in right now. Is this part of the continuity, or is this?
This actually is not. This is an autobiographical comic. I made it last year at a comics residency, and it's 8 pages. But we're pumping at this issue. Sorry, we're pumping this at Cab this year because it's a new reprint, new size, new cover, and it's just sort of about an interview that went horribly wrong. It involves a bird dying and sort of superstition, and it's just something that happened to me that I wanted to write down. But it was the first story that I wrote and drew entirely by myself.
Wow. So, tell me there's a happy ending to this, because it looks so incredibly miserable.
Yeah, there's an okay ending reached. You know, it's sort of, the whole thing is I'm interviewing to try to get out of a coffee shop job. So as you can see, coffee is kind of in all of these stories. But it doesn't go quite as planned.
Let's see. What, do I spoil the story? Because I want to ask, what job were you looking for to get all of these incredible particular events?
Well, I was interviewing for a studio manager position at an artist studio, and I did not get it, but I now work not in coffee, so it's okay.
That's great.
But yeah, so my frustration was that, like, you know, I'd been on a lot of interviews, and this particular one, like, I mean, it tanked. It wasn't just like an awkward interview. I mean, an animal actually died in the middle of our interview. So, and there's sort of a whole superstitious thing. And as you read the story, there's something else that happens later that day that sort of makes you wonder, is it all, it's called 7 or 8 because it's a little bit debate between superstition, which is sort of the number 7, and 8, which is representative of the causality, things that's sort of just happening without...
Kind of like a Mobius strip.
Yeah, exactly.
And
there's a more specific reference on why 8, but yeah, you can read it to find out. But either way, it's sort of just like, are things chaotic and coincidental, or are they connected? That was sort of the point of that story.
Nothing is circumstance, everything is fate.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah, or debating, is that true, is that not? So that's sort of why I'm not sure if it's a happy ending.
And finally, can you talk about this ginormous book that you have?
Yeah, this is actually, since we are a publishing imprint, this is one of our first works that published other artists besides our own personal work, and it's an anthology. It's called Breakers, and it's about a comic residency that I attended last year. It was 3 weeks, 26 comic artists all working together in the middle of Florida working on comics. So there's a lot of like themes about dealing with the Florida landscape, which is pretty crazy.
Florida comic books.
Yeah.
Does that have something to do with Tom Hart?
No, Tom Hart actually visited our residency, but he's in Gainesville, and this was in New Smyrna, which is kind of near Daytona. But
can we see some of the work?
Yeah, sure. You know, it's all about the different groups. So a lot of these are experiments. A lot of these are excerpts from larger works. Some of them are actual like documents of what was happening while in Florida. We went to a nudist beach, and there's a whole interlude about that and the creepy people we met there. Some of us saw sharks. There's a whole interlude about that. So,
where can we be able to see your comic books?
Well, everything that we have is available for sale either online at soatpress.com or in lots of comic book shops. We sell in Brooklyn and in Manhattan. We've got a whole list of all the shops we sell at online, but we sell at like Jim Hanley's, Desert Island in Williamsburg, Bergen Street in South Brooklyn, and yeah, lots of other places. There's a whole, I think we sell in over 30 stores now. We're up to 30 stores in the US, Canada, and London. Or UK, sorry.
Congratulations on your success.
Thank you so much for the interview.
Thank you very much. This is Carlos Abdu signing off, and sayonara.